Hi, I'm Andre, and this is my Captain America Civil War spoilers review. So if you do not want any spoilers, if you haven't seen the movie yet or don't want to be spoiled, do not watch this video. I asked you on Facebook what specific scenes or characters you want me to talk about. You gave me some good stuff. I got them right here in my handy dandy laptop, so let's get through it. Of course, you want me to talk about the airport scene where all the heroes are fighting each other. So sad, because like these are all supposed to be friends, they're Avengers, and they're fighting against each other, and yet it is one of the most awesome superhero fight scenes, action fight scenes, period, in movies. All the movies we've seen, all the characters have been developed, everything has led up to this moment of them all fighting each other, that we know all these characters if you've been following the movies. That's why I was saying you kind of have to watch the other stuff to really get involved with this movie. It's not the first one to jump into, but if you have been marathoning or watching these movies since they began, this is a great moment just to see all of this happen. And what's really awesome about it is that they're so good at where to place everybody. It's like, all right, we're gonna have Spider-Man over here fighting Falcon and Bucky. We're gonna have Captain and Tony fighting. We're gonna have Black Widow try to kick and fight Hawkeye, but they're not really fighting because they're still buddies. So then Scarlet Witch is gonna come in and be like, Black Widow, be gone! You know, Vision's gonna knock things down. Ant-Man's gonna jump in and fly into Tony's suit and use Hawkeye's arrows to jump off of to get into Tony's suit. Spider-Man wraps his legs around Giant Man, which I'll get into that in a little bit, so that then War Machine and Iron Man can punch Ant-Man and knock him down. Black Panther goes up against Hawkeye. One of my favorite parts of the fight, Hawkeye is shooting arrows at Black Panther, and Black Panther's just catching them like nobody's business. And then Hawkeye is like, hey, I don't think we've met each other. My name's Clint. And Black Panther just goes, I don't care. Everything about that scene is just so amazing, and the fact that it takes such a good chunk of the film. And I know a lot of people have been complaining, and I think it's a fair complaint, that the movie starts off pretty slow. You get one strong action scene, and then it's a lot of time before you get to this action scene. And while I do feel like that lull time could have been shortened, I do think it does help that you do have that time to lead up to it, so that when that happens, and when it happens, it's not like 5 minutes, it's like 17 minutes of fighting with all the heroes that are in this movie together. It's great. That goes to the Russo brothers, man. They just figured out a way to choreograph this thing to where it's perfectly put together, where every character is used properly. And then when it gets to the very end, where Vision kind of has his mistake, hits War Machine and knocks him down, and then Falcon tries to talk to him, and Iron Man's just like, get away from me! Everything about it, man. That scene is just absolutely epic. When I get the DVD for this movie, when I get the Blu-ray for this movie, I know I'm gonna jump to that scene. That part of the disc is gonna get burned down to like grain, because I just feel like I'm gonna watch that scene so many times because it's just so awesome. And speaking of that scene, Ant-Man, and specifically Giant Man, a lot of you asked me to talk about Giant Man. Of course Giant Man was awesome. Some of you might know Giant Man was spoiled because he got a Funko Pop figure, and the figure got out before the movie came out, so people kind of already had guessed that Giant Man was gonna pop up. But at the same time, when Ant-Man starts going on his speech about, I tried this one thing once in a lab, I don't know if it's gonna work again, but I'm gonna try it, you could have probably guessed that that was gonna happen anyway. But still, even when it happens, it looks awesome. The growth, the first growth of him doing it with War Machine, Spider-Man's, holy shit, when it happens. The look on like Paul Rudd's eyes, when he's just like, whoa, I'm big now. And Tony's like, is anyone on our team got any crazy powers they want to tell us about? It's just so great. And I love just how like slow that Giant Man moves. Once he's bigger, he like moves at a different kind of pace than everyone else does, and it's really neat. And then of course for Spider-Man to bring him down by using that reference from that old movie, The Empire Strikes Back, you know, when he goes around the snow thingy, that whole bit was just amazing. That was another moment in the movie when that happened. People just went like, whoa, oh my God! Black Panther. I mean, what can I say, man? Like, Black Panther is just so good in this movie. We now know why he wanted to beat up on Bucky the entire time, is because he believed that Bucky had caused an explosion that killed his father. So he was like, I want revenge. And that's what's interesting about Black Panther, is he has a story arc. Something happens to his dad, so therefore now he has the right of king from Wakanda, and then he has his sworn mission. I especially love it when they catch him and he's talking to Captain, and he's just like, I am a warrior, and now because of your friend, I am king. So I ask you, as a warrior, and King, how long do you think you can keep your friends safe from me? And I was just like, damn! Bam, 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 shots fired! When he finds out that Zemo is behind the death of his father, not the Winter Soldier, you know, he's been going on and on about vengeance. He's seeing Iron Man and Captain America being torn apart by vengeance. And so he's like, I would not let it consume me as well. I just think that they handled Black Panther really well, particularly in a movie that's got a lot going on. For them to be able to give an appropriate character arc to Black Panther being a brand new character rather than just him being a cameo in a couple of scenes, very great. And I love that he had a style of him that was completely different from everyone else in this universe. They kept him in a certain style and they left him there. And that's what I think is good about a lot of the characters in this. Ant-Man and Spider-Man come off as fanboys. Tony and Steve are very much about their agendas. And yeah, there is a little bit of humor in it from some of the characters, but their characters stay consistent throughout the film, and I really like that. And Black Panther especially. Like, Black Panther is just so good. And I tweeted about this, just the fact that you have Black Panther, you have Falcon, and you have War Machine in this movie, and they're three completely different types of characters. That is something you don't see. Usually when you have any kind of superhero film or many movies in general, you have one black person and they have one specific type. It's just so nice to see that here's a movie that could have three different black dudes as heroes, and they're not the same dude. They're not doing the same thing. There's no stereotypical jokes. They're just heroes like everybody else. It's that simple. Characters are characters, man. And I loved it. Everything about him. The suit was awesome. The stance when he fought out of suit, Chadwick Boseman looked awesome. I loved his stances. Like when he would land on the ground, he would be in like almost a Panther pose. Everything about him was just so good and so just commanding. Just a bummer that we gotta wait till 2018 to see him again. Can he pop up in somebody else's movie? He can show up in Spider-Man Homecoming, right? Can he show up in Thor Ragnarok? Can he just like make a phone call, be like, hey Thor, I haven't met you yet. Can you just go into space just one time and be like, hey, Star-Lord, we go back. Rocket, we knew Rocket. We used to be bowling partners. Come on, man. Oh, man, it's just so cool. I'm sorry, I'm going off about Black Panther, but I really, really liked him. But also Spider-Man was cool too. I talked about him a little bit in the non-spoiler review because people knew that Spider-Man was in this movie. What I thought was interesting about Spider-Man was I really thought we were just gonna get a cameo of Spider-Man, but they did a really good job with Peter Parker. Like, I'm glad they had the scene with Peter and Tony before he became Spider-Man, because it got us introduced to this character. After that scene was over, people applauded because it was just a great introduction to Spider-Man. We got comedy from him. We got his speech about his with great power comes great responsibility speech without saying with great power comes great responsibility, and his rapport with Tony, who's supposedly going to be in Homecoming. Their rapport was great. It's a little random how to throw it in. You can tell it's definitely like a, hey, if we didn't have the rights to Spider-Man, we probably could have done this movie without him. It just means a few scenes would have got cut. Tony just all of a sudden knows who Spider-Man is. Okay, sure, whatever. But it is what it is. There's a lot of street cameras apparently around in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, but yeah, it was nice to see that. It was nice to see the introduction to Peter, and man, this kid's great. Tom Holland is he's a great Spider-Man. He's a young Spider-Man. Like, some people think he's too young. No, Spider-Man is a teenager. He's supposed to be a teenager. He's not supposed to be a 40-year-old playing a teenager. And I love the fact that he has his talking through his fights. He's smart talking, he's fanboying out. There's even a point where Falcon is like, I don't know if you've been in a lot of fights, but fights you don't have this much talking. All that kind of stuff was just really, really cool. It really defined this Spider-Man specifically as a great Spider-Man, and it also made him significantly different from the two Spider-Man that we had before. But a lot of you, interesting enough, Aunt May, Nelson, Rushing, Diego Cabrera, Roy Mason. Talk about Aunt Hottie. Look, she's got me itching. Yeah, man, Marissa Tomei. You know, it's funny, you got like Scarlett Johansson in this movie, you got Elizabeth Olsen in this movie, and all I could think about coming out of this thing, I was like, dang, man, Marissa Tomei is a hot Aunt May. Spider-Man got younger, so I guess Aunt May had to get younger by comparison. Although she has basically gotten younger in every version of Spider-Man we got, but hey man, Marissa Tomei is Aunt May. I'll take it. If that's who I gotta look at to be Aunt May in the movies, I'm fine with that. It's just funny that Aunt May and Tony Stark are the same age. I think that's funny. Like, I'm Iron Man, I'm Aunt May. All right, I don't care. Damn, woman, like you are just taking care of yourself. The car chase scene, the scene where Bucky and Cap and Black Panther are running through that freeway. Oh my gosh, that was so good. And especially when like Black Panther was like pouncing on cars and then Falcon flies by and he grabs Falcon while he flies by, and all that stuff is really awesome. And even before we get to that, the whole scene where Bucky is fighting all the cops in the building, running from one building to another, and then Black Panther shows up, starts kicking his ass. Guns had to come out and start shooting at him. He's like, vibranium, son, ain't happening. The action scenes are so good. Like I said, you gotta wait a little bit. You gotta pace yourself a little bit at the beginning. But once you get going, Captain America Civil War, pew! I'm glad that someone mentioned this. Ethan Shimoni mentioned this, or Shimoni, I don't know. Gotta mention the CGI young RDJ. That was a point that was like, what is going on here? Using a hologram to show a younger version of himself saying goodbye to his parents. That's something he didn't do before they died. It basically looks like weird science, like like young Robert Downey Jr. It's his face, and it's so interesting because it took me a minute before I was like, wait, whoa, what is going on here? It's funny because that was more well done than some of the times that Robert Downey Jr. was in his Iron Man suit. I don't know if it was just me, but I noticed a couple of times where I was like, Robert Downey Jr. ain't wearing that Iron Man suit. That is clearly his head on a green screen body, or he's in a green screen suit, and someone just went, Iron Man suit, copy and paste. Now, you've got so many superheroes in this movie, you got so much action. It's amazing that with all that going on, somebody can stand out with just one line. Move or you will be moved. Black Panther comes out, about to get back to Wakanda. Black Widow is standing there waiting for him, and this woman comes up right to her face. This bald black woman, powerful, dressed in all black, is like, move or you will be moved. And I was like, damn, what's her story? I need a movie just on that. I don't know if she's gonna be a part of the Black Panther movie. I'm hoping so. I've seen some people talk online about how this might be related to some Wakanda warrior women from the Black Panther comics. But I'm just saying, that's pretty impressive in a movie full of superheroes that someone can remember you from one line and one action. And that's it. That's all we get of her. But now I'm just like, I want more of her. And I love Chadwick walking in like, as entertaining as that might be. That's impressive. I just really got to give her props for making an impact with one line in this kind of movie. Like, that's crazy. Eric, Antoine, Gabo, you wanted me to talk about the after credit scenes. So I was right. I said in my non-spoiler review that I thought there would be another after credit scene that I didn't see in the press screening, and when I went to see it a third time, there was an extra credit scene added. The one with Spider-Man where he's talking to Aunt May, saying that somebody beat him up at school, and then he's playing around with Tony Stark's spider tech, and then it pans up to show this like app or whatever, like the logo and menu and stuff like that. And then it cuts away and then you get a little text that says Spider-Man will return. So the one that I did see already from the first screening was the Wakanda scene. Captain America meets up with Black Panther. They put Bucky on ice because they're trying to figure out how to fix him. And Steve's like, hey man, you know they're gonna try to come get you. And Black Panther's like, I like to see them try. And it just pans out to this beautiful view of Wakanda with this giant panther statue. It looks so awesome, and all it did was get me super hyped for the Black Panther movie. I can't wait to see it. 2018 can't come soon enough. February 2018, Black History Month will be like crazy that month. Mleko and Alex Wilson and Michelle Nicole wanted me to talk about the Agent 13 reveal and kiss. So we find out in this movie that Agent 13 is Sharon Carter, the niece of Peggy Carter, who of course was Captain America's squeeze back before he got frozen. Peggy dies in this movie, and Steve and Sam are at the funeral, and that's when they find out. And he was like, oh man, I didn't realize that. And I swear, it didn't take like a couple scenes before he was like, hey, so what you doing later? Now that this Carter's done, how's the new Carter, my friend? And then later on, when she helps him out to get their weapons back when they were taken away by the government, he gives her that smooch. And I love Bucky and Sam. They give him that, yeah, player. Glad they were trying to give a little romance to the Cap, but I think it would have worked better if we got a little bit more of Cap and Agent 13 together. That would have made it make a little bit more sense, because even in Winter Soldier, they don't spend a whole lot of time together. There's a couple of scenes and she's involved in the movie, but there's never a lot of like romantic stuff that really goes on. Not in the same vein of like Tony and Pepper. We saw that progression and it made sense. This one felt a little bit faster, So I don't know. Emily Van Camp is cool. I like seeing her as Agent 13. I hope we see more of her in future movies. But yeah, you know, hey, when you gotta kiss a cat, you gotta kiss a cat. Forget that. How about that scene when freaking Captain America is holding on to that plane and it's just like, it is literally just a shot of Captain America has biceps and he's just and he's glowing and it's just like and it's funny because one of the times I saw it, there was a woman in front of me and she was looking at that scene and you could tell that she wanted to squeal but no one else was squealing, so she was nervous. She didn't want to do it. She like was leaning up forward like, I want to squeal right now, and she wouldn't do it. And then far away from a distance you heard some girl go, woo! And that was the squeal train. It's like as soon as she did it, every girl was like, yeah buddy, woo! And I might have squealed too. Of course, you gotta love that Stan Lee cameo. He's in this as a FedEx delivery guy, and he calls Tony Stark Tony Stank. It's Tony Stank here. God dang you, Stan Lee. I love that man. Paul McLean and Carly Craig asked about Bucky and Sam. There's a number of scenes where Bucky and Sam are together in this. They were a cool little duo. They're fighting Spider-Man together. One of my favorite bits, can you please move your seat up? No. Good job, those two. Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie brought it in this movie. Also like Hawkeye in this. I love the scene where Hawkeye meets up with Scarlet Witch to try to rescue her, get her released. Vision tries to stop him. You got Hawkeye going up against Vision, and eventually Scarlet Witch comes in and is like, Vision, you know me, don't get in my way. All right, fine, go down. I feel like since she's one of the newer characters, I would have liked to see a little bit more about her. And what's interesting is that nobody mentions Quicksilver at all, like not even once. Just someone mentioned him, something. I know we're gonna see him in X-Men Apocalypse, but Crossbones, man, talk about getting shafted. Like they set him up so hard in Winter Soldier, like I'll be back. And I'll be back as Crossbones. And they're like, welcome back, Crossbones. How about you die in the first 10 minutes of this movie? I was like, come on, man, Frank Grillo. Why are they gonna do him like that? Like, couldn't he at least like work with Zemo a little bit or something? And then maybe at the end, Zemo was like, your work here is done, Crossbones, bang, you know? That whole scene that starts off the movie is great, but it was just kind of a bummer. They were like, all right, Crossbones, you're done. Aiden Gould, Chris Davila, and Michael Liu all asked me about this, about the super soldier backstory. Now, this is something I did kind of have a problem with. You know, this movie's not perfect, okay? Bucky tells Cap and tells Sam that he's not the only Winter Soldier, that part of his mission of taking out the Starks was to steal more serum so that they could create more Hydra soldiers, and that they're frozen and that's why they have to go off to go get them because they think that Zemo's gonna bring them back to life. And then you come to find out that Zemo wants nothing to do with them. He kills them all dead while they're frozen. He just wanted Iron Man and Captain America there so he could show them this videotape. And I'm just like, that's a long way to get to one videotape, man. I feel like that the payoff of Zemo was so great, what he accomplished, but this was a really weird way to get to it. And to have this whole scene, I mean, they have a whole backstory sequence of these other super soldiers. So much in this movie, there's so much going on, there's so many different scenes. To spend a good amount of time on something that means nothing by the end of the movie, that was a little weird. I did think that was a little strange. I don't know if they wanted to do something with that and then just change things up and just decided to keep that story because it looked cool. It's an interesting looking backstory, but it just introduces characters we have nothing to do with it after the movie's done. So, I don't know. I feel like there might have been another way to get them isolated to still show that tape and still have the same reaction without the whole super soldier craziness. And then that leads me into Zemo. The thing about Zemo is I like the villain. I liked the actor playing it. It was very clear what he wanted to do. He wanted to break up the Avengers from the inside. That makes perfect sense. I totally get that. He's upset that his family died from the whole things that happened in Sokovia. So totally understand his need for his vengeance and the way that he handled it and wanting to get the Avengers broken up. Because he said it himself. He's like, I know I can't fight them. They're super soldiers. I can't take them down myself. But if I can tear them apart from the inside, that's a more permanent effect. It's just blowing up this building and building this thing to take electricity out, parading as a psychiatrist to get to Bucky, and the whole like, oh, I made a mask that looks like the Winter Soldier. I don't know what it is, man. Like, I will take so many liberties on, suspending disbelief of what can really happen in these movies. But there is something about people making masks that look like other people that I still can't get behind. Like, I had that problem with the Mission Impossible movies, and I had that problem here. There's just something about it where I just go, how is it this easy for somebody to make a face of somebody else? If that's the case, shouldn't people be making faces of other people all over the place? Be like, oh, Tony Stark robbed the bank. Steve Rogers killed a person. Why is that not happening all the time? It was one of those things where it was like, wow, every single thing had to happen perfectly the way he wanted in order for this to happen. And it wasn't one of those things of like, wow, this plan was perfectly crafted. It was more like, wow, all these coincidences happened to allow this to get the way it got. Just something about that plot was like, I'll accept this, but I feel like it probably could have been handled a little bit differently. Colin Stroud says, why was there a security camera on that backwards road Tony's dad was driving on? And if Winter Soldier's mission was to kill him as inconspicuously as possible, why crash the car directly in front of the camera? You asked too many questions, Colin, but Winter Soldier's gonna come after you for asking all those questions. Bucky killing Tony's parents, man. So yeah, we find out through Zemo's plan that Bucky, as Winter Soldier, was the man responsible for killing Tony's parents. And Tony finds out about it, also finds out that Steve knew about it and didn't tell him. And that moment is dramatic. When the tape started playing and he was like, I know this road, in my chair I just went, oh, no, man, no. And then when the car crashed and you see him in there, you're like, no, Bucky, no. And then he takes out Howard Stark and you're like, wait, but the mom's still there. Mama Stark's still there. No! That was painful. And then just see Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. just does a great job. He does a great performance in this, particularly at this point when he's reacting to this. Like, Robert Downey Jr. is acting hard in this movie. And he definitely shows it in that scene when he really breaks down and ends up fighting Steve, fighting Bucky. That whole fight, that fight's emotional. The other one, the airport scene, is just fun. It's entertaining, it's enjoyable. But the one between Steve and Tony with Bucky is just emotional. It hurts because you literally are watching this connection being broken apart. You can't fault Tony for having the feelings that he's having. He's very emotionally swayed, and actually in the entire movie, Tony is pretty emotionally swayed. That's what even leads to a lot of this stuff to begin with, because he starts feeling emotionally responsible for some of the things that they have done, which is very similar to the way he's been even in the first Iron Man movie when he found that his weapons were being used by terrorists. That fight was amazing. It was another very choreographed fight. And particularly the part where Bucky takes out Tony's arc reactor and then it shoots off his arm. Steve is going at him and he knocks the helmet off and he throws his shield up. Tony covers his face because he thinks he's gonna hit him in the face, but instead he just like breaks the Iron Man suit. And then when Tony's like, you don't deserve that shield, that was my father's shield, and then Captain drops it, you're just like, oh man. Then Steve sends Tony a note. Hey man, I know, I'm sorry. We don't agree on things, but I still love you. By the way, I'm breaking all my friends out of jail. Bye! Captain America and the Secret Avengers. And finally from Sam Yee, Longing, Rusted, 17, Daybreak, Furnace, 9, Benign, Homecoming, 1, Freight Car. Thumbs up this video and let me know what your favorite part of Captain America Civil War was, or if you liked the movie or if you had any issues with it. Spoilers are allowed. I love you like a play cousin. I'm Audi 5000. Chain chomp yomp.